Originally, they weren't even in the march. You were talking this march talk on Hastings Street, you were talking march talk on Lenox Avenue and on Fillmore Street, and on Central Avenue and 32nd Street and 63rd Street. That's where the march talk was being talked, but the white man put the big six at the head of it, made them the march. They became the march. They took it over. And the first move they made after they took it over, they invited Walter Reuther, a white man. They invited a priest, a rabbi, and an old white preacher. Yes, an old white preacher. The same white element that put Kennedy into power. Labor, the Catholics, the Jews, and liberal Protestants. The same clique that put Kennedy into power joined the March on Washington. It's just like when you've got some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. What do? You integrate it with cream. You make it weak. But if you pour too much cream in it, you won't even know you ever had coffee. It used to be hot, it becomes cool. It used to be strong, it becomes weak. It used to wake you up, now it puts you to sleep. This is what they did with the March on Washington. They joined it. They didn't integrate it. They infiltrated it. They joined it, became a part of it, took it over. And as they took it over, it lost its militancy. It ceased to be angry. It ceased to be hot. It ceased to be uncompromising. Why, it even ceased to be a march. It became a picnic, a circus. Nothing but a circus, with clowns and all. You had one right here in Detroit. I saw it on television, with clowns leading it. White clowns and black clowns. I know you don't like what I'm saying, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because I can prove what I'm saying. If you think I'm telling you wrong, you bring me Martin Luther King and A. Philip Randolph and James Farmer and those other three and see if they'll deny it over a microphone. No, it was a sellout. It was a takeover. When James Baldwin came in from Paris, they wouldn't let him talk because they couldn't make him go by the script. Burt Lancaster read the speech that Baldwin was supposed to make. They wouldn't let Baldwin get up there because they know Baldwin is liable to say anything. They controlled it so tight. They told those Negroes what time to hit town, how to come, where to stop, what signs to carry, what song to sing, what speech they could make, and what speech they couldn't make, and then told them to get out of town by sundown. And every one of those Toms was out of town by sundown. Now I know you don't like me saying this, but I can back it up. It was a circus, a performance that beat anything Hollywood could ever do. The performance of the year. Reuther and those other three devils should get an Academy Award for the best actors because they acted like they really loved Negroes and fooled a whole lot of Negroes. And the 6 Negroes leaders should get an award too for the best supporting cast. 2. A Declaration of Independence. Elijah Muhammad suspended Malcolm X on December 4, 1963, ostensibly for making an unauthorized remark about the assassination of President Kennedy. Actually, Malcolm and the more conservative elements in the black Muslim leadership. The only hint of these in the subsequent 3 months when Malcolm made no public statements came when he was interviewed by Louis E. Lomax in December 1963. While denying differences with Muhammad and expressing continued loyalty to him, Malcolm stated that the younger black Muslims, lacking Muhammad's divine patience with the enemy, want to see some action. The implication was that they were being restrained by the leadership. On March 8, 1964, Malcolm announced that he was leaving the Nation of Islam and was organizing a new movement. He said that the black Muslim movement had gone as far as it can because it was too narrowly sectarian and too inhibited. He also said, "I am prepared to cooperate in local civil rights actions in the South and elsewhere, and shall do so because every campaign for specific objectives can only heighten the political consciousness of the Negroes and intensify their identification against white society. There is no use deceiving ourselves. Good education, housing, and jobs are imperatives for the Negroes, and I shall support them in their fight to win these objectives, but I shall tell the Negroes that, while these are necessary, they cannot solve the main Negro problem." On March, he held a formal press conference at the Park Sheraton Hotel in New York in order to explain his new position in greater detail. Before opening the floor to questions by reporters, he read the following prepared statement. It is included here as an index to Malcolm's thinking at that time, which was to undergo further changes in the remaining 11 months of his life. Malcolm said in this statement that he was and would remain a Muslim, and he did. But a few weeks later, he was to go to Mecca and return with a different understanding of Islam, particularly in the spheres of race. Hoping and trying to avoid conflict with the black Muslims, he still praised Muhammad in this statement for his analysis and program, and declined to discuss the internal differences that had forced him out of the Nation of Islam. Later, after Muhammad began to assail him publicly, he was to regret this "I made an error, I now know," in not speaking out the full truth when I was first suspended. Previously, Malcolm had held that separation was the only solution. Now, on March 12th, he called separation into a separate nation or a return to Africa the best solution, and he weakened this further by calling it still long-range program. By May 1964, he was to discontinue altogether any advocacy of a separate nation and to say he thought Negroes should stay in the United States and fight for what was rightfully theirs. As a black Muslim, he had equated black nationalism and separation, in the press statement proclaiming himself to be a black nationalist. However, he differentiated the two concepts, defining black nationalism in such a way as to include non-separatists too. In the final months of his life, he was seeking for a term to describe his philosophy that would be more precise and more complete than black nationalism. The press statement expressed Malcolm's intention to organize the Muslim mosque, incorporated in such a manner as to provide for the active participation of all Negroes, despite their religious or non-religious beliefs. 3 months later, he was to decide that the achievement of this aim required the formation of another group, the broader secular organization of Afro-American unity. This March 12th statement, therefore, should be read as a transitional phase in the development of Malcolm's ideas, marking important changes from his black Muslim past, but not representing all the conclusions he reached before his death. Because 1964 threatens to be a very explosive year on the racial front, and because I myself intend to be very active in every phase of the American Negro struggle for human rights, I have called this press conference this morning in order to clarify my own position in the struggle, especially in regard to politics and nonviolence. I am and always will be a Muslim. My religion is Islam. I still believe that Mr. Muhammad's analysis of the problem is the most realistic and that his solution is the best one. This means that I too believe the best solution is complete separation, with our people going back home to our own African homeland. But separation back to Africa is still a long-range program, and while it is yet to materialize, 22 million of our people who are still here in America need better food, clothing, housing, education, and jobs right now. Mr. Muhammad's program does point us back homeward, but it also contains within it what we could and should be doing to help solve many of our own problems while we are still here.